All right, good morning. It is 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off here this morning. My name is Jeff King. I'm with the Nett Group Real Estate Advisors, and today we're talking about double your business in 12 months. And for those of you that are seeing this presentation for the first time, I want to tell you a little bit of a backstory on myself and when I joined the Nett Group Real Estate Advisors. I started on the team in April of 2018, so I've had 2 full years on the team in 2019 and 2020. Both years, my first full year in 19 and both in 2020 now, I have hit over $100,000 in commissions. So I want to tell you that if you're thinking, does this work? The short answer is yes, absolutely it does. My background was in computer science. I had never touched real estate in my entire life, never sold a house, never bought a house, knew absolutely nothing about it coming in. So to say that you can come from absolutely nothing in this business and be able to grow a successful business by following these tactics is a true testament of what the power of what we're talking about today is. And that's mainly lead generation, a bunch of other great topics that Michael's going to share with us. So the main thing here is don't necessarily have to do every single one of these tactics. Pick and choose which ones you want to do really, really well, execute effectively on them, and I promise you your business will double or at least be at a point where you know that you're hitting your income goals in 12 months or less, because it happened to me. It's an absolutely true story, and I want to pass it over to Michael Nettemeyer now, and we're going to get this started. So Michael, take it away.
How's everybody doing this morning? Thanks for being on. Thanks, Jeff, for that introduction. And yeah, just as a testament to Jeff, like he's really embraced what we're going to talk about today. He's put it into action and he's made it happen. And so that's a big thing with this is I see a lot of people go to training events and they get inspired, but then they don't do anything with it. And that's the key to making this thing work is you have to get into action to start making it work. So purpose of today is talk about double your business in the next 12 months, right? So looking at 2020, how do you take your business, or 2021, how do we really take our business to the next level? So do me a favor, if you don't mind, drop in the chat how many houses you're looking to sell. What's your goal on how many homes you're looking to sell in 2021? And as you're doing that, I'll give a super quick background about myself. I got into the industry in 2006, started flipping houses, started buying investment properties. End of 2010, decided I wanted to shift into selling. I got into selling real estate, did like 3.8 million my first year in 2011, like close to 8 million in 2012, 12 million. Then I started peaking, plateauing between 18 and $20 million in sales. And what I realized was I needed to build a team. So what I did was took a step back, put my focus on team building. And then in 2018, we did about the same production, around 20 million. Last year, 2019, I'm out of production now, but last year, 2019, we did 32 million. This year we did, in 2020, just shy of 45 million. So, and the goal for this year now is 75 million in 2021. So it's one of the things where we built our business on the foundation of lead generation, knowing what to say and having enough people to say it to, right? So it looks like a lot of big goals in here. I'm seeing a lot of stuff popping up here, 50, a lot of 50s, 30, 50, 25, 60, 70, big goals, right? So that's awesome. So what we want to do is dive in here and give you guys some pillars. And the thing I want you to think about right now, you've set a big goal for yourself here with anywhere from, it looks like 25 to 60, 70, 80, 100 homes. The key is now, is this a hobby or is it a business, right? The reason I bring that up is because our industry, we're actually in a great industry, right? Because of the fact that it's one of the only industries I know where you can go to real estate school, put it on a credit card, you go to school for 7 days, you take a test, you have to pass with a C- or better, and then effectively you have a license to go sell as much real estate and make more money than doctors. Not many industries like that, right? On top of that, we have to do continuing education, 10 hours, 12 hours every 2 years. The bar of entry in our industry is very low, but the upside potential is extremely high. You can make a lot of money selling real estate. The key is, though, are you doing this as a hobbyist, or are you looking to really make this a career and run this as a business? So one of the things I started doing back in the day was figuring out, okay, I know that if I'm working from home, which I understand with COVID right now, we're working from home, a lot of people, but what I established back in the day was I have to set office hours, right? I'm going to get up at the same time. I'm going to go to the office at the same time. I'm going to stay at the office at the same time. Even if I have nothing to do, I'm staying at the office from 8 to 5. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm establishing habits of working a full-time job, right? And it's not something where I'm just waking up and kind of letting the day happen and, oh, I don't have any appointments today, so I'm going to cut the grass, I'm going to do laundry. Like, if you really want to turn this into a big business, you've got to establish some habits, and that's where time blocking comes into play as well. Other thing too, if you have questions, drop your questions in, or raise your hand if you want to ask a question, so we're going to get to you on all of that. So time blocking. What I do with time blocking is you have to establish habits with your time blocking. And what that means is, for me, it was lead generation 8 to 10 every single day, right? So that's 2 hours. How do I do 2 hours of lead generation every day? How do I start using social media to expand my web presence to get people to know me? And then lastly, how do I commit to mastery? How do I become super efficient on my scripting, knowing what to say? How do I become super efficient on my listing? I used to go on listing presentations and I thought, just get into rapport with people, all right? I'd go there and be like, man, they really liked me. That went super well. Everything went well. I'd leave without getting the listing contract signed. And then I'd call to follow up and they'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're a nice guy, but we listed with somebody else, right? When you start losing, it's not about rapport when you go on listing presentations, because that client is seeing you as an expense, right? They can like you all they want, but they're seeing you as an expense. So it's not always about rapport, it's about value. So I got very diligent on how do I get and increase my value, and that's through practicing my script. So With that said, start thinking about some of those things and own your day. So this is a big thing that we utilize on our team, and it's own your day. How do you know if you're winning or losing, right? So how do you know if you're winning or losing? And where that comes into play is right here. And if you look here, we've got a calculation. We can send this out to everybody. But if you look here at the top, so everybody on our team does this, and we know that, okay, what's my target? How much do I want to make in 2021, right? And if you're a single agent on your own, say your goal is $100,000, you anticipate half of your business is coming from sellers, half is coming from buyers. And the red numbers here you can tweak. So that means you have to generate $50,000 from your sellers, $50,000 from your buyers. Now the average commission, 3.3 if you're taking a 6% listing, average buy side 2.7. That means you need to generate and close 1,515,000 on the sell side. You need to generate and close 1,851,000 on the buy side. Whatever your average price point is, these are the numbers you need to be knowing, right? And then your conversion rates. Our team converts at about 80%. It's actually a little bit higher than that. But we know for every 10 listing appointments our team goes on, we're going to take at least 8 of them, right? And then we're going to sell at least 8 of the appointments we take. So you need to know your numbers here so you can play around with this. Starting off, maybe it's like mine back in the day used to be 50%, right? So you put your numbers in here. Now what that's telling me is that throughout the year, I need to sell 8 listings and I need to close 9 buyers. Now, in order to do that, I need to go on 9 listing appointments and I need to secure 12 buyer agency agreements throughout the year, all right? That means I need to be going on 1 listing appointment a month and 1 buyer appointment a month in order to hit my goal of $100,000. Now, in order to do that, we track everything like nurtures, and we'll get into why that's important here in a little bit. But essentially what I want you to focus on here is this number. I need to talk to 8 people a day. How do I talk? If my conversions are all correct here, and I know my conversions, I know my average price point, I need to go talk to 8 people a day in order to hit my $100,000 target. Now, if your goal is to net $100,000, right? Because there's a big difference between gross and net. We all know the realtors out there that have super high production and they get these awards and they generated $3 million in production and their net profit was less than $100,000. That's, in my opinion, not a business worth having, right? So you need to get control of that. So you need to know, what are your expenses? If you're on your own paying for everything, are your expenses 30% a year? And if your goal is to net 100,000, that means you really need to generate 130,000 in GCI. As you start building a team, you're going to have what's called cost of sale, because you have team members out selling houses now. And then you have expenses on top of that. So all of a sudden, if you have a team and your target's 100K, your net profit might be closer to 30,000. All right. So knowing your numbers is super important. So does that make sense on the spreadsheet? Bob, we're going to send out the spreadsheet here as well. Congrats on becoming a real estate agent. And Brian, yeah, thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that. Congrats on looking to buy 75 this year. That's huge. So any questions on the sheet here? Super effective tool to help you understand what you need to do in order to generate more business or to know your numbers, right? So next thing here we're going to dive into is really, and I'm going to keep this quick, we're going to get into like the bones of what we really came here to do, and that's learn how to generate more business. But knowing what your why is, right? What are your income goals? People, drop your income goals on there real quick. What are you guys looking to make in 2021? The reason I bring this up is because what is 100 plus, 175, 200? There we go, right? Big numbers, right? What's important about this? So what's important about that number to you? Because what's going to happen is real estate is not an easy industry, right? There's nothing easy about this industry. It's a tough industry. We have deals fall out, stuff happens, right? Life happens. It's easy to push stuff to the side and be like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to get to it tomorrow. You have to have a big why, and a big why is just a big purpose, something that's going to drive you every single day to go achieve your goal, right? Like every super high achiever has something that's pushing them to their goal. And in the beginning, your financial goal. So like for me back in the day, it was, I wanted to make 50 grand, right? I had $104,000 in student loans for a degree I wasn't using. I had 10 or 12 grand in credit card debt. I was behind on my bills. I was always getting debt collectors on a first name basis with debt collectors calling me all the time, letters in the mail, terrified to open my mailbox. Even more terrified to open my checking account because I have $4 in there, or negative, even worse, right? So all of that stuff, I had to have a big why. Back then it was 50 grand. How do I make 50 grand? 50 grand was life changing for me, right? Then finally I hit 50 grand in a year. Wow, okay, things are a little bit different. Then you start hitting 50K in a month, and you're like, okay, you know what? That's it's laughable what my goal was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago I was totally broke. Today I'm not. But it had to do with I had a big why. I still have a big why. And the reason I bring that up is because money might not always be the motivator for you, right? Because what happens is if 100K is your big why and you hit it, now what? What's going to take you to the next level to ensure you do it again, or you double it, or you triple it, or you quadruple it? So you have to have a big why. And what I find too is that when people say they burn out, right? People don't burn out. You always hear people like, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, I'm burned out, I need a vacation. The vacation's probably not going to solve your problem. Your why just isn't big enough, right? People don't burn out because of what they do. They burn out because life has a way of making them forget why they're doing it. Right? And that's why it's so important that you have a big why pushing you every single day to go hit your goals. So let's get into it. SOI, first pillar. When you look at your real estate industry or your business, you have to look at it as like, think of the chair you're sitting in right now. You have 4 legs on that chair, most likely. If one of those legs gets kicked out, what happens to your chair? You fall over, right? My husband's big why is a big wife. There we go. I like it. If one of those pillars gets kicked out, your chair falls over. So you need to have multiple pillars of business in the event. Like for us, our big pillar of our business, and it still is expires. It used to be bigger, limited inventory. There aren't a lot of expires, right? But we know that eventually the do not call lists will get to a point where we probably can't call people any longer. All right. So we need to know, and what are we doing to forward prep and forward think for that to replace that pillar of business? So my point in this is that you need pillars of business, but the challenge I see with most realtors when they first start in the industry is they try to do too much. They say, okay, I'm going to put an SOI plan together. I'm going to start generating internet leads. I'm going to go call for sale by owners. I'm going to call expireds. I'm going to go door knock. I'm going to do for sale by owner or open houses. I'm going to do farming. I'm going to start mailing to people. They try to do all of this stuff and none of it works well because they're spread too thin. And then what do? They quit. All right. What's the average industry? Like, it's like something like in the first year, 80% of realtors quit the industry in the first year, something like that. It's because they don't have a plan, they don't have direction, and they're trying to do too much at once. So what we always talk about is you need to focus on one pillar. For me, back in the day, it was expired listings. For whatever reason, I was terrified to talk to my SOI. I felt like I didn't have enough experience and they didn't want to work with me, which is just a myth. People want to work with people that know you, like you, trust you. All right, but it was, how do I go after expires? And I went after that with just constant, right? I built that pillar and then I added a second pillar. Built that, put a system around it, and then added the third pillar. So with your SOI, if you're brand new to the industry, even if you've been doing this for a long time and you've neglected your SOI, this is something that I would jump into immediately and start focusing on this. So we have a very simple SOI plan, which is, we call it our data bank, right? Your database is your data bank. That's where you're making your money. So what we do is we send out 12 newsletters a year, right? So this is just one email a month to our client with a newsletter. And it essentially just has different things on it, like the most expensive home for sale in St. Louis, some celebrity news, a market update on what's going on in the market in our MLS, right? We have a podcast, we throw that on there. We always have we are hiring because we're always looking for talented people to bring onto our team, right? We have I don't know what else we have. I don't do this, Tanner does it. So it's essentially just a newsletter. Tanner, if you want to drop in or comment in on what else we have on that newsletter. Just unmute Tanner and just throw it in. Are you typing in or you want to talk?
I was going to type in just to keep the ball rolling, but yeah, I mean, we just have, a market report, a few, like a featured luxury listing, and a few other, just clickable items. They don't even have to be anything crazy. Just something to pique the interest and, something consistent that is sent out every single month. That's the most important part, is it's hitting their inbox every single month on, like the same date. So they know to expect it, they know to look for it. And, the content comes in second place behind actually just receiving it. So,
yeah, to that point, the content is secondary, honestly. In the beginning, it doesn't have to be this fancy newsletter because most people aren't even going to open it, to be honest. What you want them to see is that once they hit their inbox, obviously you want them to open it because your click rate's higher. That helps with all the analytics and email and that. But you want to be able to get something in front of them every month where they're seeing your name. They're seeing you're in real estate. They're knowing that you're in the industry and you're keeping them top of mind, right? Next thing is we send out 12 real estate market reports. This is just through our CRM. Everybody in our database gets a monthly market update. We send these out on the 1st and then the 15th, so they're not getting bombarded with 2 emails right in the beginning of the month. So what they're getting here is just an update on what's selling in their subdivision. We use a CRM called Real Geeks. We're switching to one called KV Core right now. We're in the process of transitioning. The majority of CRMs out there, you don't have to go buy a big fancy CRM that's going to cost $1,500 or $2,000 a month. You can get to that over time. Go get a basic CRM. There are plenty of CRMs that you can get for like $25 a month or $50 a month. I do highly recommend though getting a database, a CRM tool that you can start implementing people into to start growing your business. So ours sends out automatically the real estate reports. We do one client appreciation event. We didn't get to do that this year because of COVID. Typically, it's just a bowling event where we rent out Saratoga Lanes. We have all of our past clients come. We have food, bowling. It's like 4 or 5 hours, drinks, all that stuff. Within that, we're reaching out to our database 4 to 5 times to invite them to that event, right? We do 4 phone calls per year. This is so simple. If you didn't do anything other than just make 4 phone calls a year, you would drastically increase your business. And these phone calls are easy. You call and say, hi. That's it. You call and say, hi. How are you? Doesn't have to be anything more than that. It doesn't have to be, this is a business call. I'm looking for referrals. You call and say hi because you know what? Your database, you ask them how work's going, how's life. What are they going to ask you? They know you're in real estate. They're going to ask you how the real estate market is. This conversation will 100% of the time transition into a real estate related phone call. Because every person out there has a fascination with real estate. Majority of people own their own homes or have aspirations to buy a home. So they always want to know how the market is, or they have an interest in needing to invest or flip houses or buy investment properties. Call and say hello, ask them how they're doing, and I guarantee you that call will transition into a real estate related call. From there, you can figure out what their needs are and how you can help them with their transaction, right? Call 4 times a year, once a quarter. Make a call to your entire SOI database. Your business will go. This stuff's so simple, but we oftentimes try to overcomplicate things, right? We feel like there's so many people out there trying to sell so much stuff. I'm the king of spending money on stupid stuff, right? Like this $10,000 program is going to change my life. It didn't, right? Like, this thing for 15 grand or 1,200 a month or 2,000 a month or $59 a month, all of this stuff, it's very simple, fake database phone calls. And then we give away pies at Thanksgiving. Reach out 2 to 3 times over the course of the month of November. So if you look at this now, we have 12, 24, 28, 29, 30, 31, 30. We're reaching out to our database like 35 to 40 times a year, right? We're not inundating them with just junk stuff, right? We're inundating with things of value, keeping them updated on what's selling in their neighborhood, sending them out a newsletter, appreciation event, inviting them to an event, right? And then making 4 phone calls a year. Super simple stuff that actually works really well if it's done effectively, right? Does anybody think this is a tough plan that you can't implement today? And here's the thing, like, you don't need to do an appreciation event. You don't need to do Thanksgiving pies right now, right? If money's super tight, because I'm all about leading with revenue, focus on how do I get a newsletter out? Or maybe it's just an email to my clients, sending them a quick report on what's selling in the neighborhood or in the area, in the MLS, right? Focus on this, but I would 100% of the time make sure you make 4 phone calls to your database per year and go from there. So somebody just said, do you ever remove anybody from your data bank? And if so, how do you decide who stays or go? Everybody stays in there, Rick. We keep everybody in there unless they call, like if it's an internet lead and they tell us to, they say some inappropriate stuff to us, we'll get them out of our database. But as far as SOI, even the people that have bought houses from us and then they've used a different realtor down the road, it's happened a lot. I was so bad at working my database, right? I keep those people in my database because what happens is those people, the realtor they used, chances are there's a high probability that realtor they used is going to be out of the business in a few years. So it's a sad reality. I get it, but the chances of their realtor staying in this for a long haul isn't that great. So as long as I keep staying in touch, it was my fault they didn't use me, right? I didn't do a good job of keeping in touch with them. So what I want to do is keep everybody in my database and keep going. Are we using command for newsletters? We do not use Command. We use Real Geeks, and we're switching to KV Core right now. We create our own newsletters. We have a VA in the Philippines with the help with Tanner, with the assistance of our VA, creates the newsletters for us. The other thing here is who constantly, just raise your hand or drop it in here, who's very good at keeping up in touch with their past clients? Bob, yeah, a couple people. Most of us aren't. I wasn't either for a long time. And the reason I think the majority of us are not good at keeping in touch with our past clients is because we feel like we're bothering them. Does anybody feel like that? Like we're bothering them? All right. A lot of people do. And that's the way I looked at it for a long time. It's like, you know, just closing the house. I don't want to call them. I don't want to bother them. Well, a couple of years ago, I switched my train of thought around that. And I started thinking about this. When you work with your client, say you're working with a buyer, right? You go out and show them houses for a couple of weeks, right? You find a house, you put it under contract. Chances are their parents come to the house. They get, you know, you meet their family. You talk to them almost every day over the course of a 2-month period. You close on the house, you get paid, and then you never talk to them again. So how do you think they feel? Right? They feel like they were just a transaction. Hey, they got paid, they never talked to me again. Right? So when you start looking at it from that aspect, it's really your obligation to make sure you stay in touch with your past clients, right? So that they never feel that way. And when you stay in touch, what often happens is they say, hey, so-and-so from work was thinking about selling. I passed along your name. So-and-so from work was thinking about buying, or one of my friends or one of my relatives, right? So you owe it to yourself to stay in touch with your clients, and it's the easiest way to just double your business, right? So don't feel like you're bothering them. It's more than that. So I hope this makes sense on an SOI. It's super simple what we do. About 55% of our business comes from our database. We're looking to up those numbers every year. So well over 100 transactions came from this simple plan in 2020. All right, so super easy. That's the first pillar. If you don't have any pillars going right now, this is what I would be focusing on. Next thing is internet leads. So who works internet leads in here? Drop it in. And how many people think internet leads don't work? A lot of people do, right? A lot of people are like, oh, those internet leads are junk. They don't work. The truth is they all work. You just don't understand the math behind it, right? If you think you're going to convert 100% of internet leads, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. On our team, we shoot for 2 to 3%, right? So we do a lot of Google pay-per-click and Facebook ads, 2 to 3%. That means for every 100 leads that come in, we need to close 2 to 3 of them. Right? So when you start looking at it like that, you know that, and just some internet lead sources, like sources are internet leads, sources shouldn't be in there, but Zillow, Facebook, Google, pay-per-click, Realtor.com, there are hundreds of ways to generate internet leads, right? So what we know though, is that every internet lead is not created equal. A Zillow lead, which is gonna cost a couple $100 for that lead, is most likely going to be further along in the buying cycle. We all wanna look at the buying cycle of this and say, we want every lead to be hot and ready to go. The reality is most internet leads that sign up are 12 months from wanting to purchase a home. So what that tells us is a Zillow lead, though, they're actually inquiring to want to come out and see a house. They're saying, hey, I want to go look at this house. That means they're most likely further along in the buying cycle than somebody that just clicked on a home to want to look at it, right? So Zillow leads, of course, are going to be hotter leads. That's why they're more expensive. If you're working Facebook leads or Google pay-per-click leads, same with Realtor.com. They're going to be further along in the buying process. You need to make sure you have a very solid follow-up system to keep in touch. And here's what we know. 2% of sales are made on the first call. So if we're expecting to convert every internet lead that comes in, we have to keep in mind that 2% of sales are made on the first call. 80% is made between the 5th and 12th contact. So if you start paying for internet leads and you don't have a plan in place to follow up with these leads consistently, you're probably not going to convert and you might not be getting a good return on your investment. So internet leads can be extremely effective. Do you guys want to hear how a phone call goes on this? Want to hear that? Okay. I'm going to have, let's have Ryan. So Ryan's on our team. I'm going to unmute you, Ryan, or unmute yourself there.
Okay.
All right. So this is just a basic lead that just signed up on our website. They're looking at some houses. We call immediately. So now we want to call immediately. And because the conversion, the likelihood of you converting a lead is 400 times greater if you call within the first 5 minutes. If they're signing up on your website and they're not that means they're not only signing up on your site, chances are they've signed up on Zillow, they've signed up on Realtor.com, they're signing up on other sites other than your own. So you need to make sure that you call immediately. All right, so here we go, ring. Yeah, hello.
Hey, Michael, it's Ryan with the St. Louis Real Estate Exchange. You were on our website viewing homes, and I just wanted to reach out to see how I could help you with your home search.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just looking. I saw a house online. I just clicked on it and thought it looked nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand that you're just looking. Is there a time in the near future that you would purchase a home?
Yeah, I mean, we're renting a place right now, and I think we've got like 6 months left on our lease, so we'll probably want to do something, a little bit later on down the road.
Yeah, I completely understand that you're renting, and it sounds like you're going to be ready to purchase here in the next 6 months.
Yeah,
Does that sound fair?
I mean, yeah, we're still trying to save some money, and we got some credit things we probably have to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, if I could show you a way of finding the perfect home now while interest rates are at an all-time low, would that be something you'd be interested in?
Um, I mean, maybe we'd probably have to figure something out with my lease, but I mean, yeah, I guess if it was the perfect house, I'd consider it.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we should go ahead and just sit down for 10 or 15 minutes. What we do is a buyer's consultation, and what we do is dive deeper into what you're looking for in the area and what that perfect home looks like. So, what typically works best for you, afternoons or evenings?
Well, I guess usually evenings are better, but I don't know if we're quite ready to meet. I don't really want to commit to anything yet.
Yeah, and you really wouldn't be committing to anything, Michael. Are you aware that the typical buying process takes between 60 and 90 days from start to finish?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so that's why it's important that we go ahead and meet now rather than waiting, because 6 months is going to come a lot sooner than you think, and you do want to have a good game plan around finding that perfect home, correct?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we do.
Absolutely. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and pencil in a time for us to meet this week. Hypothetically, if we were to meet this week, Michael, what would work best for you?
I get, usually the evenings are better. So really in the
Oh,
evening this week probably would work.
okay, I have availability as soon as tonight or tomorrow evening at 6:30. Which works best?
We can do tomorrow at 6:30.
Okay, I will have you down. Are you comfortable with coming in our office?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, it's address, and
Yeah. So then he
I'll
gets
see you tomorrow.
yeah, he's got his name, email, so he just sends an email with follow-up contact information. So a lot of people might be saying that doesn't work. Well, it does work 2 to 3 times out of 100, right? Like it's that simple. And that's where he did a good job of qualifying me. He backed in to the time frame, right? So I said I'm 6 months out. He tells me now it could take 60 to 90 days from start to finish. So now really I only have 3 months, right? So when you start backing their time frame in like that, and all of a sudden now 6 months doesn't seem so far away, right? He also asked me the question, if I found you the perfect home, would you consider moving? Sure. And then we can go deeper on what that perfect home looks like. Another one we use right now is historically low interest rates. We still know interest rates are low, right? Lower than they ever have been, right? And who knows, this year could rates get lower? Possibly. We don't have a crystal ball, but we don't know for sure that they won't go up either. Right. So utilizing on internet lead scripts right now is the historically low interest rates. You have more purchasing power. For every 1% in interest rate increases, you lose 10% in buying power. Right. So if you're looking at a 400K house today and rates go up 1%, you just lost $40,000 in buying power. Those are things to be using to plant seeds in these buyers' minds that now is the time if you can afford to wait. And we're probably going to get in with that lead on essentially like, hey, I still have 3 months left on my lease. What if we could figure out a way to get more seller credits to cover some of that rent payment? There are a lot of ways you can get creative with this stuff to be able to convert these leads. You just have to know what to say and practice those scripts every time. So any questions on those objection handlers, let me know. But that's a way with internet leads, they can work extremely well. So what's going to happen here is a lead comes in, right? Lead comes in, we're calling immediately. If they don't answer the phone, we're going to leave a voicemail. All right, we're always leaving voicemails when internet leads come in. We're going to send them a text and we're sending them an email. And then we're setting them up on a home search that matches close to the criteria of what their home is they looked at. So if they clicked on a $400,000 home in Chesterfield, we're going to set up a home search from 300,000 to 500,000, going 100K each way in Chesterfield. So they start getting daily alerts from homes. And then what we're going to do the next day is we're going to call, email, and text again. And we're going to do that every single day until they answer, and we're going to leave a voicemail. All right. Now we've got a lot of auto stuff built into our CRMs that's doing some of this for us. But the key to this is, how do I stay in front of these people every day for 10 days? Right. Now, you might think that's overkill. I would rather do overkill and have them finally answer me, like, quit calling me, because at least then I know that I don't have to keep messing with it. Right. So I'm going to continue to call until they say, yes, we're ready to buy a house, or don't ever call me again. And then we'll probably still call them again if they tell us not to. But the point is, you have to have a plan in place where you're constantly staying in front of these leads to convert them at the highest level. You can't just call one time, right? 2% of sales are made on the first phone call. So if you're gonna, there's some silly statistic too, like 88% of internet leads go without even being called. So people are paying for leads. They're out showing houses or on appointments. A lead comes in, they forget to call it. It's wasted opportunity. So if you're gonna go with the internet leads, you have to be willing to follow up and continue to follow up. Now, here's another challenge is when you talk to one of these leads and they say, like, I'm not ready, I'm in my lease for a year, right? Something like that. You need to have a good follow-up system in place as well. So for us, we're setting up on a home search and we're calling every 30 days. We're calling every 30 days to check in, make sure they're continuing to receive the homes we're sending, and asking them if anything's changed in their timeline, right? So most people will say, no, nothing's changed. Here's the cool thing though. A lot of times they're not even gonna answer, right? Like I had a guy that signed up on our site 2 years ago. I talked to him when he first signed up. He said, no, we're not looking to sell, or we're not looking to buy a house. Okay, great. I kept in touch. He said, we're like a year out, 2 years out, something like that. I followed up. I called every 30 days, left a voicemail. He didn't answer. 9 months later, I had called him 9 times. He answered the phone and said, hey, thanks for staying in touch. We're still not ready. But keep following up. I called him another like 7 times, 7 months went by. He answered finally. He never answered. I just left the voicemail. Finally answered. So that's like 16 months later. He answered and said, hey, thanks for staying in touch. We're ready to buy a house. I gave him to Ryan. Ryan went out, sold him a house. I met the guy. He came into our office for closing, met him for the first time. He's like, hey, the reason we went with you is because you followed up so well. So a lot of people will be like, oh my God, I had to follow up with this guy for 16 months. But what did I do over 16 months? I talked to him the first time. I set him up on home search. I had auto emails going out to him. And then I left like 16 voicemails, right? So all said and done, I had like 10 minutes of my life into that 17 months. And it turned into a $250,000 sale. All right, so that's the key, is a lot of times these people aren't going to answer. They're not going to answer because they're not ready to go yet. But you need to continue to follow up, because when they are ready to go, they're going to pick up the phone, thank you for staying in touch, and then they're going to decide to go sell a house or buy a house with you. So that's super important with your follow-up. I hope that makes sense. You've got to have a follow-up system in there. Sometimes it can be harder to make the second phone call after you've connected with them the first time. You just have to do it. Simple phone call. Just wanted to check in and make sure you're getting the houses I'm sending. Has anything changed? We leave that as a voicemail, and then we send an email that says exactly that every single month on follow-ups, and it works really well. So if you have any other questions on that. Oh yeah, Tanner just dropped a link in here too. We do live script practicing every single day. We've got a Facebook group where we're running through all of these different scenarios. We do it almost every single day. So if you're interested in the chat, there's a link. Click on that and just join the group, and we'll get you approved to be in there. So internet leads is a pillar. SOI is a pillar. Next thing we're looking at is for sale by owners and expireds. So with for sale by owners and expireds, why would we want to call for sale by owners and expireds? Right? It's the reason we want to call these is because it's the low-hanging fruit of our industry. Meaning that these are people that we know are motivated to sell. If they were an expired listing, their house just came off the market, we know that they want to sell their house, right? If it's a for sale by owner, we know they have a want or need to sell their house. And the reason they don't want to work with a realtor is because they want to save on commission. So expireds work extremely well. That's how I built my business. Same thing with this though. 2% of sales. When I first started back in the day, I would call and I would not take good notes. I would talk to them. If I didn't set the appointment that day, I was never going to talk to that lead again. Even if they said, yeah, call me back in a week or two, I just didn't have a follow-up system. So I would not follow up with people. And that was a huge miss. When I finally started to get my follow-up system in place, I started to close more business because you're continually following up, right? And most realtors will stop calling after a day or two. So what happens on expireds is most people are going to quit calling after a day or two. And all of a sudden you start connecting with these people 5 days, 6 days, a week in, 2 weeks in, there's no more competition. It's just you. So you've got to be in this for the long haul. We can do an expire call. Joe's on here, I think. If you want to hear an expire call, we'll run through this.
Yes,
All right, Joe. Hello.
Hi, yes, my name is Joe. I'm a realtor here in the area, and I was calling about the house that was recently for sale on 123 Main Street.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I saw your house recently came off the multiple listing service. Has your property sold at this time, or is it still available?
No, it hasn't sold. We're just taking it off for now.
Okay, gotcha. And again, sir, my name is Joe Geary, and I'm with the Nett Group Real Estate Advisors. Your name is?
It's Michael.
Michael, since your house hasn't sold at this time, would there be a point in the future where you would want to get it back onto the market to get top dollar for it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably do something eventually, but I don't know. We didn't really have a good experience. We probably would just sell it ourselves, honestly.
Okay, I can certainly understand that. And Michael, just out of curiosity, once you do get this house sold, where were you planning on moving to?
We're looking to downsize. We just want to, we've had this house for 30 years. We want to get into something a little bit smaller.
Okay, absolutely. And are you looking to stay in the same area or move out of the area?
Same area, just smaller house.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Michael, I understand completely that you have had a rough experience in the past with a realtor. And what I'd love to do is I'd love to show you what we could do to help you get your property sold for top dollar, as well as help you get into that next smaller home that fits you and your family's needs perfectly. Would you be open to sitting down for 15 or 20 minutes?
No, I mean, not right now. Like I said, we just want to put this thing on hold, and maybe we'll look to do something in the springtime.
Okay, it sounds like waiting until the spring is important to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's when houses sell, right?
Yeah, Michael, a lot of houses certainly do sell in the spring. However, is your goal when you do get your house sold to get the most amount of money possible?
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, Michael. So my concern with you wanting to wait until the spring is that right now interest rates are at an all-time low, as well as inventory is extremely low right now on top of that. So what we're seeing houses sell very quickly and for top dollar. And what happens is in the spring market, a lot of new homes or new competition come onto the market that you'll have to be competing with. And when there's newer homes, that always can possibly drive the price down. And you do want to get the most amount of money, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Michael. So hypothetically, if we were to set up a time to meet, do the evenings or the afternoons typically work better for you and your wife?
I mean, evenings are usually better.
Evenings. Okay. Well, I actually have some availability this evening around 7 o'clock, or would tomorrow at 5 work better for you?
I guess we could do tonight.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I will plan on seeing you tonight at 7 o'clock. And just to confirm, Michael, what would be a good email address for you?
You can send it to michael@gmail.com, but I'm not signing anything. I'm not saying I'm committing to anything.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. This is no obligation whatsoever. I just love to come out as a resource for you and show you what exactly the market's doing and what we could do to help you get your house sold for top dollar.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, cool. I will see you then.
All right. So there we go. So simple call, right? Do all of the calls go that way? No. But what you need to be prepared for is, how am I going to overcome at least a handful of objections? What we find with expireds is that you get 4 to 5 objections. I'm going to stay with the same realtor. I'm going to sell at my house. I'm taking it off for now. I hate realtors, right? Like, yeah, your commission's too high. There's only a handful of objections that you're going to get. Once you get good at combating those objection handlers, it's pretty easy to set appointments, right? Now with expireds, we see that right now, inventory's low. There's not a whole lot of expireds. There was like 88 the other day on New Year's Day. Typically there would have been hundreds, right? So expireds is a pillar that's dried up. It was still about, I think, 20% of our business in 2020. But it's one of those things where it's not like it used to be back in the day. When I first started calling in 2011, I'd get 50 a day, right? So the numbers aren't there, but it's still a very good pillar. It's a skill-based phone call, though. You've got to be good at converting these, and you've got to be prepared to overcome the objections. When I first started making these phone calls back in the day, I had a script in front of me, and I would just read the script, right? And I was terrified to make phone calls. And so I honestly would be like, please don't answer, please don't answer, please don't answer, right? And then they would answer, and I'd be like, and I'd spit off my script. They'd tell me I wasn't interested, and I'd be like, thank you. I would just be so excited to hang up the phone. But at least I felt good, like I was making the phone call, all right? And then what happened is I was forced, because I did this every day. I didn't quit. I just kept reading the script. And then I started to internalize the script. And then I started to get good at the script. And then finally some lady called me back, because again, I didn't have a follow-up system then. And she said, hey, we talked last month. I want you to sell my house. Come out. right? That was my first listing. And I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. And then I did it again and again and again and again. I took like 20 something listings in the next 2 months then, because I had the confidence then, right? And it took almost 2 months to get one listing, but then I started to go because I built confidence from that, right? And all I did was we still have script books today. I don't know if someone wants to hold up the script book, but we practice scripts every single day, right? Like, so there's Ryan, there we go, our script book. We practice scripts every single day. The reason we practice scripts every single day is because when you know what to say, you can become extremely effective with how you communicate with people, and you can close more business and convert more business, right? And a lot of people will say the scripts don't sound like me. They're gonna be like, well, that script just doesn't sound like me, so I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna put my own twist on it. Well, the truth is the script's not supposed to sound like you. It's supposed to sound like a highly successful realtor, right? So before you go and just say, I'm going to ad-lib my way to misery and just try to put my own twist on it, when you try to do that in the beginning, what happens is that's when all the uhs come out and the right? And you don't get the business. You don't sound confident, right? You don't sound sincere. So don't try to ad-lib, just internalize these scripts as they're written. Once you get good at it, you can put your own little twist on it if you want to. But that's my challenge to a lot of people is stick to the script. The script works. We know the script works. Don't try to make it your own right now. Just stick to the script. And if you need scripts, I mean, you can go on, we have scripts we can send, but you can go on just type in real estate scripts and you'll get like 9,000 options, right? There's so many scripts out there. Everybody's scripts are just a spin-off and a steal from somebody else. So there is somebody out there that actually wrote these, I promise, but everybody else is just stealing them. So we don't know who wrote them, but we like to steal them. So keep that in mind with expireds and for sale by owner. Somebody asked about data sources. We use Vulcan 7 is what we use. Vulcan 7 pulls all of our data in for sale by owners, expireds, canceled listings. And we dump that automatically. It gets transferred into Mojo. Mojo is a dialer that calls 3 people at one time. So when I used to hand dial back in the day, I sat down one day and I was like, I'm going to see how many phone calls I can get through and just be super intentional. So I locked myself in my little 2x2 closet office that I had. That's all I could afford back then. And I started making phone calls. And in 2 hours, I made 60 phone calls, 61 phone calls, something like that. With Mojo now, in that same 2 hour period, you can make hundreds, 300 phone calls. You can make hundreds of phone calls. So it's one of those things where it's just another tool. There's a cost to it, of course, but it's another tool to go talk to more people, right? So yeah, Amy, you said too, it sounds familiar to a T. Okay, have a good day, and they hang up. Oh, for you, yeah, you're saying you hang up? Yeah, I hear you. I used to too, right? Once you get good at the scripts though, it makes it a lot easier. So expireds are a great way to build your pipeline, build your business. For sale by owners are another one. We can run that. You guys want to hear a for sale by owner script? We can run one of those real quick. We're running out of time, but we'll hit one. Joe, if you want to hit that. So I'm a for sale by owner. Hello.
Hi, yes, my name is Joe. I'm a realtor here in the area, and I was calling about the house that was recently for sale on Zillow at 123 Main Street. Am I speaking with the owner?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, sir. I saw your house was recently listed for sale. Has your property sold at this point, or is it still available?
No, it's still available. Do you have a buyer?
No, I currently don't have a buyer, honestly, and I was just calling just out of curiosity, since it hasn't sold yet, would there ever be a point in the future where you may consider working with a full-time realtor to help you get that property sold?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're going to try it ourselves. We know that we're getting a lot of realtors calling that have buyers, and we just want to save on the commission. So we'll probably just try it here for another month, see what happens, and go from there.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And again, sir, my name is Joe Geary, and your name is?
It's Michael.
Michael, if there was a way where we could show you how we could net you a lot of money, probably as much money as you have it for sale by now or even more, while still paying our fee, would you be open to maybe meeting for 15 or 20 minutes, and it would be no obligation whatsoever?
Well, I don't see how you're going to do that with, because you charge 6-7%, something like that.
Yeah, the typical average for the industry is about 6%. And Michael, our professional service fee is completely negotiable. And on average, houses that are sold with the realtor assisting them, according to the National Association of Realtors, actually net about 11% more on average than homes that are sold by owner. So if I was able to show you a way where we could actually get you, potentially 11% or even more, wouldn't it make sense for us to meet for 15 or 20 minutes?
I mean, if you could show me a way to get more money, yeah, I guess it couldn't hurt. Let me talk to my wife, and can I give you a call back?
Yeah, you can certainly give me a call back, Michael. And I know your wife is definitely a big part of this decision and this process. So I'd like to at least just pencil in a time. Hypothetically, if you and your wife were to meet with me, do the evenings or afternoons typically work better for you too?
Evenings definitely work better.
Evenings. Okay. Well, I actually have some openings in my schedule this evening around 7 or 8 o'clock, or would tomorrow evening at 6 work better?
I mean, tomorrow would definitely be better, but yeah, I need to talk to
Okay.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, and I'm just simply going to pencil it in for tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That way, if you talk with your wife and she's totally against it or that time doesn't work for her, feel free to give me a call back on the number that I text you, and we can always reschedule.
Okay, that works.
Okay, sounds good. I will see you tomorrow at 6 then.
Okay, cool. So what did he do there? He showed that, good job. He showed that we can get you more money if we can net you more money, right? Commission's always going to be an objection, right? So we're not like, our goal is to always get 6%. I will be honest, we cut sometimes. We compete against a lot of like 3%ers, 4%ers, stuff like that. But our goal is to always, as a team, go out and get 6% listings, right? Will we flex a little bit here and there? Yeah, especially if they're buying a house, we'll negotiate on that. But our goal is, but we don't want to drive on commission on the phone. So they're gonna be like, well, what's your commission? You know, the typical service fee is 6 to 7%. Our fee is completely negotiable. That's something we can discuss when we come out. So we're always teaching people, don't sit there and negotiate commissions on the phone. My commission's 6%. Yeah, so-and-so did it for 3. See ya, they hang up, right? It's completely negotiable. It's something we can talk about when we come out. So that's just a way of, and he's showing me that he can potentially get me more money. And a lot of times with for sale by owners, that's true. And you're gonna take the burden off. Now, with for sale by owners, if they just listed their house today, they're probably not going to come meet with you, right? And the reason that is because they're excited about it. They're getting a lot of phone calls. Another thing is we don't lead in with that, I might have a buyer for your home. If we really have a buyer for it, we'll say it. But if we don't want to lie to them, right? Like I was taught that back in the day, years ago, to do that. And what I did was I would call all of these people and I'd be like, hey, I might have a buyer for your home. They'd be like, okay, bring them. I'd be like, well, I need to make sure it's a good fit before I come out, right? And I would go to their house and I would be walking through the house. And then I'd get to the basement and they'd be like, well, yeah, and if we list our house, we're walking through, they're showing me like, here's the pantry and here's the linoleum that we installed in 1990, right? And you're like, yeah, it's so nice. And then I get to the part of the house and they're like, well, if we do list, we're going to list with my sister. What am I doing there, right? I'm just wasting my time. So what we go into now is just, how do we add value? If we do have a buyer for it, we legitimately do, we'll set up time to bring our buyer through. But we're going to be honest with them. No, we don't necessarily have a buyer. We do work with a lot of buyers and sellers in the area. And if we could show you a way we could get you more money for your home while still paying our fee, would you consider it? All right. So a lot of times when they first go to the market, they're not going to necessarily be ready to list. The key to this, those two, how do you keep in touch every week? How are you following up every single week and checking in so that when they are ready and they're frustrated and their house hasn't sold, you can be there as a resource to come list their house. Usually the 30-day mark is what we find. About 30 days is when they're like, okay, I'm tired of holding the houses open. I'm tired of realtors coming here saying they have buyers and they're just trying to sell me on a listing presentation, right? And they get to the point where now they're ready to, they want to come list. You've been the person that's just been continuous there, adding value, answering questions that they have, and now they're going to list their house with you. So that's the key is, looking here, we're still doing a lot of questions there. Yeah, wearing a mask, stuff like that. That's super important. But same thing with yeah, thanks. Yeah, FSBO's fastest way to get the next paycheck. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Absolutely. 100%. Low-hanging fruit. They have a need to sell. Go out there and get the for sale by owners. So if you have questions on that, drop them in there. We'll keep looking at the questions to answer them. These are two great pillars, though, to generate more business, for sale by owners especially. Now, circle prospecting. Do you guys know what circle prospecting is? Circle prospecting is a tool, is a way of essentially drawing a circle around a house that you just sold, or that somebody in your office just sold, or that anybody just sold, and you call and say, your neighbor's home at 123 Main Street just sold, right? And if you do have buyers, so oftentimes right now, a lot of our listings, we're getting multiple offers, right? We're getting 8, 10 offers on our listings. We know that there are other buyers out there that want to purchase a home in the neighborhood. So what we're doing here is we're calling around and saying, we have other buyers that are looking to move into the area. Would you consider selling your home? Now, the reason we want to do this, now this is a huge pillar of our business. We started getting intentional with circle prospecting in 2018. In 2018, it accounted for about 2% of our business, right? Which is not a lot. Fast forward to 2020, it was a little over 20% of our business. Now, the reason that is because So many of these people we're having conversations with, of course we want to set the appointment, but go back to the first call, first contact, 2% of sales made, which means I need to go talk to 100 people here to get two listings or two sales out of this, right? What happens though is, how many nurturers am I adding to my database? We call a nurture somebody that's looking to buy or sell in the next 12 months or sooner. So how do I go add 5 people to my database every day through doing these phone calls that can turn into future business for me, right? If we all intend on being in this business a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, this is a great pillar to add, because what it's going to do is it's going to fill your pipeline with so many potential buyers and sellers that regardless of the market and the economy, you're always going to have people to call on to get business from. We know that statistically 10% of our database moves every year. So with that, like Jeff, I'll have him run a circle prospecting call. He does a lot of these. We know that in his first year, he added almost 1,000 people to his database through doing just this. He's a young guy, didn't have an SOI, never been in the real estate industry before, got him on the phone, started making circle prospecting calls, fed his database. 2019, the bulk of his business came from just following up with his database and continuing to add people to it. So with circle prospecting, we use Cole Realty Resource to pull our data, and then it imports into our Mojo dialers, and that's where we're making phone calls every day. So if you want to hear how one of these calls goes, Jeff, I'll want to unmute yourself.
Yep. Yeah. All right, ring.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm a local realtor. Your neighbor's home at 123 Main Street just sold, and we generated some more buyers looking to live in the area. I was reaching out to see if you knew of anyone else that's looking to possibly sell their home in the near future.
No, I don't know of anybody.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you thinking about that. And out of curiosity, if we could get you top dollar for your home, would you ever consider selling?
I mean, yeah, whatever top dollar. I mean, if I could get a good price for it, you give me top dollar, like you say. I mean, what price could you get for it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly why we should get together for about 15 minutes. I can give you an accurate price assessment of what your home would sell for in today's market. Would a morning or an afternoon work better for me to stop by?
Well, I don't think we're ready for all that yet. We've got some things we want to do to the house prior to selling it.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you're considering on doing some things to the house, this is even more important why we should meet. That way you're not over improving your house, and any money that you put into the house, we would be able to make sure that you can get that back out when it comes time to sell. Would that be valuable for you?
Yeah, so you're saying if I didn't have to put the money into it?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're seeing right now is that economic indicators are indicating that we're at the peak of a seller's market. And just like the stock market, what goes up must eventually come down. So sellers don't have to update their house 100% in order to currently sell them on the market. That way you could actually get top dollar potentially without making those updates.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I might be interested in that.
Okay, absolutely. So would a morning or an afternoon be better?
After evenings are probably the best.
Evenings would be best. Okay. I do have tomorrow evening available at 5, or I've got Thursday at 5:30. Which would you prefer?
Thursday at 5:30 would be good.
5:30 would be great. Excellent. And could you confirm your address for me, please?
Sure. 1234 Main Street.
1234 Main Street. Excellent. And what's a good email address I'll send you my contact info to?
Michael@gmail.com.
Michael@gmail.com. Perfect, Michael. Look forward to meeting you Thursday at 5:30.
Cool. Thanks. Okay. So there we go. Right. Simple phone call. Again, that works 2% of the time. Right. So 2% of the time, go talk to 100 people. You'll get 2 listing appointments with that. Right. And these are stats that we know over the last couple of years. It's not going to work. So like Mary just joined our team the other day. She's in her 3rd week, I believe. She's been in the business a long time. She just started circle prospecting. She set 4 listing appointments last week. Right. The week of New Year's Eve, 4. She's like, I set more listing appointments this week than I did all last year. Right. And so, I mean, that's awesome. But the week before that, she goes, are you sure this works? Right. So she was like, are you sure this works? Because she's hitting the phones hard, making these phone calls. And then I was like, just keep doing it. Like, yes, it works. We know it works. Keep doing it. And then what happened was the week after, all of a sudden, all of this stuff started coming to fruition. That's the key to this, though, is you have to be consistent. It's not enough to do any of these pillars just one time and then expect for it to work. Right. Like I had back in the day, in 2010, at the end of 2010, I went to a real estate conference. And what I learned was that I got there and I had this limiting belief prior to going to that if you wanted to sell $100 million in real estate, you needed to be in California selling $1 million+ homes. Right. Well, the first person on stage was a guy that sold expireds in Michigan. His average price point was like 115,000, and he did like 1,000 transactions. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. Somebody else got up there and they door knocked for 4 hours a day, and they did 50 million. Somebody else was doing 7 open houses a week. I thought you could only do open houses on Sunday, right? Somebody else was doing 7 every single day. He's doing open houses. And he was doing like 60, 70, 80 million dollars. So my point to that is every one of these pillars that we're talking about today works. It's a matter of figuring out which one gravitates toward you. Like if I had to go do open houses every single day, I would never do it. Like I'm just not a fan. They work and they work extremely well. And some people crush it. I didn't. I went after expireds as my path. Figure out one of these things that gravitates toward you. I'd say get your SOI dialed in and then figure out a strategy that gravitates toward you. Now, with these phone calls, you're going to get a lot of these people that are not interested, right? For every 100, you're going to get 98 that are not interested. So if you want to see how that goes, how do we get nurtures and add them into our database? Jeff, let's roll with that one.
Sure. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm a local realtor, and your neighbor's home at 123 Main Street just sold, and we generated some more buyers looking to live in the area. So we're reaching out to the neighbors to see if you knew of anyone else looking to sell their home in the near future.
No, I don't know of anybody.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you thinking about that. And out of curiosity, if we can get you top dollar for your home, would you consider selling in the future?
No, probably not right now. I mean, we just moved in here about 4 years ago. Our kids have a year left in high school, and we might consider something down the road, but yeah, nothing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand. I have put together a monthly market report that shows you how homes are selling in your neighborhood. Would you be offended if I sent you that on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you're not going to, what is it? I mean, what are you going to send me?
Yeah, it's a monthly market update. So it'll show you what homes are selling for in your area. That way you can keep updated on the market up until that point that you're ready to sell your home.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you could send that to me. What do you mail that, or what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. What would be a good email address that I could send that to?
Oh, email? Yeah, you can send it to michael@gmail.com.
Michael@gmail.com. Excellent, Michael. I'll get that sent over to you right away.
Okay, perfect. So that's how we get market reports, right? And then we'll preference a little bit, figure out a little bit more timeline. But if somebody's like, yeah, we're not looking to do anything until December, we'll want to figure out, why is December important, right? Like, so today's January, they're not going to move till the end of the year. Why is that important? Maybe there's some factors. We get motivation. We're taking good notes on what conversation looked like. Maybe they have a surgery coming up, or they have something going on. We want to make sure we're taking very good detailed notes on that, so that when we're doing our follow-up call, we can address like kind of what our previous conversation was. And when you're doing this high volume of phone calls as well, you tend to forget who you talk to. So taking very good notes is extremely important. But what Jeff did there was, now I said I'm a couple years off. I have to wait until my kids get out of school. But he has a timeline for me, essentially. He's going to send me a market update with a market report that's current to my subdivision. All right, so now he's sending me an item of value every single month. And then what we do there, if somebody's at 12 months or sooner, or even 18 months or sooner, we're actually calling them every single month. So that might sound like, why would you do that if they're 12 months out? Well, because the likelihood, if somebody tells me they're 12 months out, they're probably going to move in 6, right? But if I wait until 6 months to call them, and I call them, it's in month 6, they're going to say, oh yeah, thanks for calling. We just sold our house a month ago, or last week, or we just put our house on the market. Or even worse, they're going to call and be like, who are you? I don't remember talking to you 6 months ago. So what we're doing is we set them up on a market report, and we're calling them every 30 days. And the conversation's simple. It's just call. Hi, wanted to make sure, Michael, we talked last month. I know, acknowledge their time frame. I know you said you're 12 months out from wanting to sell your home. Just wanted to make sure you're receiving my market report and ask if anything has changed with your time frame. Same thing we do with internet leads. Acknowledge the time frame, because if you don't do that, they're gonna be like, I told you I'm a year out. Acknowledge it and ask them if anything's changed with their time frame. Right? And when you do that, what's going to happen is they're not going to answer. But then eventually at month 4, they might answer and be like, hey, thanks for keeping in touch. Yeah, you know what? You can come out. We're actually thinking about selling. All right, so that's a great way to just stay in touch with people. And it's just so simple. It requires 1 phone call a month and an automatic email to get sent out to them. So circle prospecting is a great way. So some of the things we utilize, no, we don't call do not calls. We have it scrubbed. Cole Realty scrubs, and then Mojo scrubs for us as well. Somebody asked about do not calls. We want to try to stay away from do not call list as much as possible. And so we are doing everything we can to scrub against those lists. So open houses, again, open houses is another great strategy, right? But going back to circle prospecting, this is something that is not going to, you're not going to become wealthy with this overnight. This is a time-based activity, right? It's time on task over time. You've got to keep doing this consistently every single day. And what will happen is now, like Jeff has over 1,000 people in his database. Statistics show us now that if 10% of his database is moving every year, that's 100 people right there in his database. Now, the cool thing about his database is that the bulk of the people are from circle prospecting, which means that these are people that have already indicated they have a want or need to sell in the next 12 to 24 months. So the likelihood of his database being 10% is actually significantly more. It's probably 30 or 40%. So he has 30 to 40, or yeah, 30 to 40 transactions. There's no 300 to 400 transactions just in his database alone, which means that if he did no other outbound lead generation for the rest of the year and just focused on his database, he could have a very good business within that. There's no reason he couldn't pluck 70, 80, 100 homes out of that, right? So that's super important to think about, is how are we growing and nurturing our database to make sure we're adding people to it. So if you have questions on that, drop that in. Yeah, Jeff said it's the easiest way to talk to the most amount of people. It's all the numbers game. How do we talk to, how do we talk to enough people, know what to say, have enough people to say it to? Open houses, my least favorite thing that I ever did, right? But it's a great pillar for people. When I first got into the industry, I started flipping houses and buying rental property because the brokerage I started at, they said, okay, go do open houses on Sunday and sit at the front desk and answer phones, right? And schedule appointments for realtor. There was no like showing time back then, or whatever the other services are. So what I would do is I would just sit there, and the guy next to me would be playing solitaire on the computer. And I would be like, no, I'm not doing this for the next 30 years of my life. And so I got into flipping houses and that pretty quick within the first couple months of getting into real estate. Well, and the same thing with open houses. I'd be hungover on Sunday. I was 23 years old. And so I wasn't in the right frame of mind to do an open house. But then I would put like 1 or 2 signs out Sunday morning and nobody would show up. And I would just sit there and be like, this is a waste of 2 hours. Well, it was my fault. I wasn't being efficient with my time and really putting an open house strategy together. There are realtors that have built massive $100 million+ businesses off open houses. They do work. You have to be willing to work it though. So part of what we do is with open houses, we want to have a strategy, and what that strategy looks like is this. So we want to look at open houses in higher activity areas, right? We want to put out a minimum of 10 directional arrows. Now, I know certain municipalities, you have to be careful about this, right? Because they have rules against signage. You can only go out like on Sunday mornings, different things like that. So you have to know the municipalities you're in. We want to put 10 directional arrows out. We circle prospect the neighborhood. Reason we're doing that is we're calling all of the neighbors to let them know about the open house. Why would we do that? Nosy neighbors, right? Nosy neighbors, of course they're nosy, they want to know what's going on. We want to invite them into the open house. The reason we want to invite them into the open house is because the nosy neighbors could potentially have family members or friends that want to move into the area, right? So let's get the nosy neighbors in there so they can go talk it up to other people, their family members, their friends, let them know about the house. So we're circle prospecting throughout the week. This whole process starts on Monday, right? We're going to run ads on Facebook, advertising on Facebook, and then we're going to go door knock 30 houses. We're going to go door knock 10 houses to the left, 10 to the right, 10 across the street. So simple tool, door knock, invite the neighbors to come in, ask them if they have anybody looking to come in, looking to move into the area. Now, when you're at the actual open house, what we teach on for our agents is when somebody walks in, you're going to say, hello, thanks so much for stopping in today. Are you looking for a new home, or do you happen to live in the neighborhood? Why would I want to ask that that question? The reason is because when I ask that, thanks so much for stopping in. Do you happen to be out looking for a new home, or do you live in the neighborhood? Now I know what kind of conversation I need to have with that person. No, we just live right down the street, right? That's a totally different conversation than somebody that's like, yeah, we're out looking for a house. So now all of a sudden I can gauge on who are my potential people in the house that could have a referral or somebody looking to move into the area, or who's the people that are actually looking for a house. And if you get like a flood, like I know a lot of COVID open houses now, you're getting tons of people through, you can put more focus on the people that need to buy a house, right? So you want to figure out who your audience is within the open house. We tend to stay near the front door. We provide them with information, asking them questions as they're walking through the house to try to gauge that. So just a simple strategy here too. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff. And it's just a way of getting high traffic areas, 10 signs, circle prospect, advertise on Facebook, go door knock 30 houses, and then ask the right questions. And that's the same thing. We practice scripts on open houses. It's the same thing. You have to know what to say on these things to convert people. Me back in the day, I would just pass out a business card and hope they called me. All right, hope's not a strategy. We've got to be able to convert people at a higher level if we're doing this. So I know I ran over. I think that's all we got. Yeah, the last thing's follow up. Then you just have to follow up with people. So 10, 10, 10, that's door knock, 10 to the left, 10 to the right, 10 across the street. So I appreciate you guys staying on. I know I ran over, sorry about that. We're gonna open it up for any questions that you have. If you wanna ask questions, just raise your hand, we'll unmute you. Or if not, drop them in the chat. But thank you so much for being on. One thing before you jump off, we are gonna do something. We've been talking about offering up we're gonna do like a 6-week training where it's like more of a mastermind, but diving into, it's gonna be in the evening starting in February, where we're gonna do live for about an hour and an evening 1 day a week for 6 weeks. We're gonna dive into everything, like how to go deeper on everything we talked about today, how to structure your business, how to have a P&L, how to a profit and loss statement, how to really start treating it like a business, different tax strategies. Taxes are our biggest expense. Sorry, I'm looking at this screen with all your faces. I guess I can stop sharing and look at my webcam. But tax strategies, taxes are your biggest expense, right? So all of these different strategies, how to build a team, how to get into team building if that's something that you want. So if you guys have interest in that, drop your emails in here in the chat. We'll get an email out to you. And we're going to start that in February. So that'll just be a 6-week kind of training. It's free, does not cost anything. And if you have any questions about that, thanks so much. We'll open it up to questions though. If you have any, drop them in the chat with your emails, and we'll take any live questions you guys have. We'll hang out here for about 10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions. Hopefully that was good.
So we can just go ahead and ask anything. Is that everybody's just waiting on someone to ask a question?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So on the open house thing, I am going to be doing my first one on Sunday. You said advertise on Facebook. I have a specific thing that I do on Facebook. I don't know if you know who I am or seen my dancing before, but I was going to use that as my Facebook advertising. Do you have anything that you like to put on Facebook besides the house or anything else when you do the Facebook advertising for the open house?
So I didn't catch what you said. Do you have a specific or a funny something that you do? What was that?
Yeah, I do this little dance called the Baba Louie everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It was a commercial that I did for my business that I mentioned in the comments. And then local businesses started asking me to do it at their business to promote them and to promote myself. I mean, I guess can I say it, Mike? Can I tell them?
Yeah.
I'm a home inspector. I own Madewell Inspections. So I decided to become a real estate agent. I'm 44 years old. I just got tired of crawling around crawl spaces and attics. And I have guys now that can run the business and do the inspections. So I'm going to still have that and just write paychecks for them and then be a real estate agent. But the Baba Louie came out of that, and I'm going to continue using it because it's mine.
I think anything you can do to be more memorable, do it, right? You got something that's working and you can add it, incorporate it into your real estate business. Absolutely. Right. People are going to know that. They're going to see it. Starts to become a trademark trend type thing. Yeah, 100%. I would do that.
Okay. Well, I just didn't know if there's anything else that you go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
I was going to say, Bob, one of the biggest things from your background as a home inspector, like if a buyer is going to pay for a home inspection, they're spending $400, $450 to buy that. You have a huge value right there. Hey, I was a home inspector. I know exactly what I'm looking for. You don't have to pay me 450 times, to go see, or $450 each time that we go see a house. I know what I'm looking for, and I have that background. That would be huge.
Yeah, because there are so many times, Bob, that realtors will sell a house and then inspections are just a nightmare because they didn't know what to look for when walking through. They could have easily walked through and saw, horizontal cracks everywhere, significant foundation issues, or the electrical panels, and not prep their buyer. So you have that knowledge now. That's huge. That's going to be a good resource for you.
It actually was one of the reasons I decided to do this. I don't know how many times over the 5 years that I've been a home inspector that I've had somebody pull me aside and go, man, I wish I would have known you earlier in this process. I do inspections for some families twice, sometimes even 3 times. I had one couple, my most has been 4 inspections for the same client because it just kept picking these houses at this price point. And I'm just like, oh, but I can't, as the home inspector, say, hey, I don't want to ever overstep my bounds as the home inspector and be like, maybe you should be not looking at these. But now I can stop them, like you said, from making those same mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Especially too with first-time home buyers. I mean, they're the ones that don't really know what they're getting into when they buy a house. So you have a huge opportunity there to more educate than anything. And using that education as leverage is what's going to get you clients.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for being on. Anybody else have questions, drop them in or just ask, either way.
Hey, Mike, this is Mary Ann Church. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hey, I do have a question for you. On the few expireds that are hitting, obviously there's some reason that it didn't sell. How are you combating that when you're talking to them or trying to approach them as to list with you about what are you going to, because obviously it's a market, because I've had people say to me, well, if it didn't sell, what are you going to do different? So
Right.
I guess I'm looking for a little different response.
Yeah, so what we find typically in the expireds is that a lot of times it's price, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, it is price. But it's also, it could be the photos, right? Sometimes it's the photos. Sometimes it's like we have a staging consultant go out, take a look at our listings.
Right,
set up
I
the
agree
house.
with that.
We live in our homes for comfort. When it comes time to sell, we need to set them up for functionality, right? So we need to be decluttering, making sure the photos, we know 97% of home buyers are looking online. We need to make sure the photos show really well. If a realtor's taking it with their camera phone and you see them in the mirror in the bathroom, stuff like that, we need to make sure, like things like that we can do better. So we're letting them know that, yes, I'm sure your realtor fully intended to sell. It's most likely the approach. You just need a more aggressive approach. Let us come out and show you exactly what we do to help hundreds of sellers just like yourself who have had their homes on the market and their home failed to sell. Let us show you what we can do to show you a better way to get your home sold.
But what do you do if it really was like dramatically overpriced and they're just insistent, well, that's what my house is going to get? I mean,
yeah, that's what,
I'm one of them that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to just keep beating a dead horse.
right.
I think maybe I'm the wrong one because, I'm like way too honest.
No, I think it's important. So you need to be able to, because taking an overpriced listing, like a lot of newer realtors will do this because they just want a listing and they're like, oh, I got a listing and it's never going to sell. Like all that's doing is it's spending your time, your resources. There's a cost that goes into every listing.
Oh yeah, there's a cost.
Right. Yeah. And not even from a financial, but just time perspective. Right. And those can be draining. And then what's going to happen is the house doesn't sell because it was overpriced from the beginning and you knew that. And then they're going to tell all their friends you didn't sell the house. Right. Yeah. So we want to be upfront and honest. We have an obligation to tell them what their home, where we feel in our professional opinion home should sell. Typically on an expired listing, if it was getting activity and no offers, it's probably 4 to 6% off. Right. If it was getting very low activity, like one showing a week, it was 6 to 10% off. If it's not getting anything, it's probably 12% or more. But you have to be able to show them the data. You can't just go in and say, hey, I just think it should be 250. You got to have that factual data, be able to interpret those numbers and show them that here's all of the data. All of your neighbors' homes are selling for X. We let them look through each house in our comp report that our agents take out and show them that here's your neighbor's home that sold for $350,000. Now this had granite, it had a finished basement, it had a walkout, it had a larger lot, pointing out those features. So in their minds, they're looking through this and like, oh wow, these houses are a lot nicer. I wanted 350, but these houses are way better than mine, and they sold for 350. I'm probably going to be under. So we're letting them self-discover that. Another big key too is go preview. I know there's not a lot of active inventory right now, but if you're in your comp reports that you're pulling, go preview those active houses. Because now when you're on that presentation, you can say, I was just in your neighbor's home that's for sale. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. It didn't have a finished lower level. It didn't have this that yours has. Now all of a sudden you start becoming more of an expert in their neighborhood, and it's showing people that you're on top of the market. Oh wow, this person knows what's going on in my subdivision. There's nothing worse than getting to a house and you didn't do a real good job pulling comps, and they go, oh yeah, the neighbor's house down the street that's for sale, that's been on for 3 days, 30 days. And you're looking, you're like, that's not even in my report. What are they talking about? Right? So you need to go drive the neighborhood. You need to preview the active comparables so you can really be that expert for the area.
Well, and I'm also finding right now it's really hard to sometimes even find comps because there's nothing for sale.
Yeah, it is. I mean, where we used to be able to just pull a subdivision and have it, that would be in there. But yeah, you just have to dig a little bit deeper now and find stuff that's really similar to that house to get the best comps you can. It's definitely more of a challenge.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I always appreciate your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for being on. Anybody else have anything? Now, again, Tanner, if you wouldn't mind, drop that script group thing back in. He's going to drop that in. For anybody that wants to get in that script group, we do that almost every day, live scripting, where we're running through different scenarios like internet leads, buyers, sellers. We just started it like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think. So it's something new, but jump on that and then drop your email in too if you want us to send some information. We're kind of putting some information on that free training that we're going to do. But our goal for this year is like, we feel like I've learned so much over the industry over the years, and I just want to help other realtors get back as much as I can to help you guys make more money. You know, people ask me the other day, like, why do you do all this stuff from a training perspective? And the truth is there's like 35,000 homes that sell in our MLS every year. It could be more. Like I want like 700 of them, right? So there's still like 34,000 something left. Like, how do you guys go get your number? Like, you guys can go get 100 or 500 or 1,000 or 30 or 25 or 10, whatever your number is. There's plenty out there for everybody, right? There's plenty out there for all of us to go get our share of it. And so if we can help people along the way, cut your learning curve. Like I've learned so much over the last 10 years. I've spent so much money on areas that I shouldn't have, that I thought was going to be the silver bullet. You know, like, oh my God, this is going to take my business to the next level. And it didn't. And the truth is, it's consistency. It's consistency. It's building your database and feeding your database every day and working on practicing and getting really good at your scripts, right? And getting good at your conversions and knowing that if I go on a listing appointment, I'm going to get this listing appointment because I'm the best option for this seller, because I care more, because I practice more, because I study the market more, and just because I'm the best option for them. So it's building that consistency around being able to do these habits every day. Somebody just dropped a question in. What are some recommendation low-cost database resources for agents just starting to build prospect client list to grow and nurture? So that's where I would start with, like, so if let's just say you had a zero budget, right? Like you have no money to spend right now. You've got to get something, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet, you've got to get something to start putting data in. But the key right now is if you don't have money, what you do have is time, right? So what are some free activities I can be doing to get in front of more people? So open houses is one. I would start doing multiple open houses over the weekend, right? It's not going to cost any money. It's just costing time. How do I go get in front of more people? Door knocking is another way. It's cold out. I get it. COVID, people don't want you coming up to the door. There are always going to be reasons to not do something. You just have to do it anyway, right? For every one person that doesn't want you knocking on your door, there's 10 that don't mind, right? So how do I go door knock right now? How do I go to networking events where I can be purposeful and intentional on getting in front of as many people as I can? These are all just free things. You've got to get in front of people. How do I utilize social media, right? Social media is the most underutilized tool by real estate agents. It's free marketing. It's like you have a billboard 24/7 on social media when you're posting constantly. You know, like don't go overkill, and you need to put some personal stuff in there, but let your business be known in your social media so that you can start to build a following. So when people think of a realtor, they're thinking of you, right? Jeff just said spreadsheets or HubSpot has a free basic CRM. So if you don't have money to spend on a CRM right now, HubSpot. Again, there are a lot of like Follow Up Boss. There are a lot of like cheaper options as well. A lot of brokerages offer it as well. So just think about that. But HubSpot does have a free one that works well.
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
A question for you. I'm getting like emails all the time from like other Coldwell Banker or other realtors advertising their listings, Berkshire Hathaway, on and on and on. Do you guys capture those email addresses when you have a listing then and subsequently send them emails saying, hey, come, with your buyers to our listings?
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, you can pull all of that from the MLS.
Okay.
So if you go to like Office, go to roster, you can export every single realtor's email address that you want. Yeah. And
yeah, something else too is you can look at the reverse prospecting list for your listing. That's what most realtors will do because that'll be specific to their clients. You probably have a better chance of converting those. But if you're going for a wide net, you can pull all that data of any agent in the MLS from agent rosters.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Because we have, actually my husband has a colleague that has a really high priced home. And I asked her, they actually moved out of the country. I asked her, I kept in touch with her. I said, why did you go with the realtor that you have to sell your house? Well, it was a friend of the realtor that we used to buy the house. And the house has really sat on the market for a long time. So I'm like trying to wrap my head around how do you, and somebody else suggested, find out who the like higher priced homes realtors in that area are that, you know, have those buyers. So how do you figure out who are the, I guess, luxury realtors?
You can pull, so I think you can pull, I haven't done a lot of, Tanner would know more about this, but you can go into the market reports or into the, what is it, in MLS. You can pull a lot of that data in the MLS and see who's selling in specific zip codes or neighborhoods, or is it resources at the top or market reports, something like that?
So honestly, the way that I've done this in the past is you honestly will just go and look at what brokerages, like you usually know which brokerages are, higher priced, have higher priced clients in that area. You just want to click on that office and then you just blast it to every small agent in the office. Yeah, I know it's more geographical than going after specific agents, but you're still giving yourself a much better chance than, just kind of sending it to the whole, the whole MLS. So that's
Right.
the way I would do it, is go after, the geographical locations of the brokerages, and then like knowing, like the offices in Ladue, all of those that are going to have higher price agents in there. You want to go after those specifically.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for hosting this today too.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It helps like kickstart the new year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a good year for everybody.
Yes.
So anybody else have anything? If not, I think we will wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for being on. If you have any
Thank you.
questions as well, yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for being on, and really appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of the year. We'll get an email out on the training we have coming up, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks so much.